Welcome to this week's episode of the Campfire Series podcast. I am your host, Logan Soforenko. We have a very special guest joining us on this week's theater episode. He is currently in the Escape to Margaritaville Broadway National Tour cast. Please welcome the leading man himself, Mr. Chris Clark.
My name is Chris Clark. I'm from Plano, Texas, a suburb north of Dallas. I went to Texas State University, got my BFA in musical theater, and I currently was playing Tully in the Broadway National Tour of Jimmy Buffett's Escape to Margaritaville. Through the time since that's passed, I've gotten my personal training certification, and so now I'm a personal trainer, group fitness instructor. I got super into the New York Times crossword, and I moved to New York. I moved back to New York, so we're doing wild things.
How's that going for you, moving back to New York? I know a lot of people are actually leaving the city, and looks like you're heading to the city. How's that going for you?
Yeah, it's wild. I mean, I was seeing a lot of friends come back, and that gave me hope. And then I was seeing people move out until it got better, and that scared me a little bit. So it's just kind of been balancing both. And it's weird because the thing that I originally planned to come here to do is not immediately there, but a lot of my friends from summer stock and from college and tour are back here. And it was that's my community of creators and of artists and of like-minded people. And I love my parents. I haven't gotten to hang out with them a lot, but just being in Dallas, Texas after a year on the road was kind of tough.
What was obviously, before we hop into theater stuff, you a Cowboy fan?
I am a very big Dallas Cowboys fan.
How about yesterday? Just real quick,
Oh my gosh. I watched it in here. I put a video up. Oh my goodness. I'm telling you what, if you're a Falcons fan, don't ever be comfortable with a lead. Tom Brady in the Super Bowl and that thing yesterday, that offside kick. Oh, well, not offside kick, onside kick. Yeah, that was wild. The Cowboys always blow games; they never win the games, so that was really quite exciting.
I saw the you posted on your story with the jersey the other day. I was like, okay, I have to bring this up when we meet because
yes,
I was sitting there and I screamed. I was like, okay, cool that they recovered it, but why did the Falcons not grab the football?
I know, it's the Cowboys who have to go 10 yards, not the Falcons.
Right, exactly. And but yeah, anyway, crazy day of football yesterday. But with that being said, before we hop into talking about Margaritaville, I want to quickly remind everyone a little story about how you and I happened to have met each other before I actually saw you at the show at the Broadway Theater. And I was so confused because you said, "Did you look familiar?" You look familiar. I'm like,
yeah.
I have no idea how, and then I looked at you. You played Gaston in a regional production, or it might have been in college, or
regional.
Yeah. And I was like, wait a second. There was this. So my mom and I, for our viewers, when I was in New York in 2018, doing a rush lottery for Come From Away at the Gerald Schoenfeld Theater in New York. We're sitting next to these people, and we have some cool conversation. One of them said he's a Texas State student, and the other used to work at Disneyland. That's all I remember. And I was like, his name's Chris. I'm like, okay, cool. And then fast forward 2 years later, he is the leading man in a Broadway national tour that I happen to be seeing in Hollywood. That is crazy. And it was very, very fun to watch, by the way. I said good job, but it was very fun to watch, and your performance was awesome.
Thank you so much, my man.
But let's talk about how you got into it. You told me a little bit about how it was the senior showcase stuff, but how did you sign? Did you sign with an agent? What was the whole process after your senior year and getting into Margaritaville?
Yeah, so I remember seeing that there was a casting call for it when I was in college, and I didn't do it because I was in a show, and I didn't think I was really right for it. And then I showcased after I graduated. 2 weeks after, we came to New York and did a senior showcase for agents, casting directors, the whole shebang. And the casting director saw it, and he sent me an email. And it was the packet. They said they wanted me to submit. They needed it 2 days later. So I did it really, really quick. And I filmed it, edited it, sent it away. It's like, nothing's really coming out of this. I was excited after Showcase to just eventually, when that summer was done, move to New York and be here. And it was like, well, if I don't get that, then I'm going to do the plan. And if I get that, then great. And so I, out of Showcase, also signed with an agent. And then the day that I got the call that I got Margaritaville, I called my agents and I said, hey, I want to join the agency. Also, this happened. So let's talk about it. And so we ended up negotiating from there, and we got a deal that I was super, super happy with, and got really excited to do Margaritaville. And yeah, that's not a good way to tell that story, but it was kind of it kind of all happened at once. The stakes were super low for me, which is why I think I did well in my audition, because I wasn't like, this is it, this is my one thing. It was that would be really cool if it happened. It'd be awesome to lead a national tour, and I like Jimmy Buffett music. But if it doesn't happen, I'll move to New York and do what I planned on doing. So it was a good environment for me to succeed.
Did you know anything about the show when you got cast? Like, did you ever see it when it was in New York? Or obviously you knew the Buffett songs, but did you know anything about like the way it was done in the musical?
I did not. The thing I really knew was when you and I rushed Come From Away, they had the Escape to Margaritaville marquee up outside the Marquee Theater. And I remember walking over there. We were like going over there to use the bathroom in between rushing. Shout out to the Marquee Marriott in Times Square. And I was like, oh, Escape to Margaritaville. That's fun. And then I think about those moments, and I'm like, how crazy that I was in the Broadway National Tour of that 2 years later. It's just wild. But I didn't really know it. I mean, my parents are really big Jimmy Buffett fans, so I knew the music growing up, but I didn't know the show at all. So it was all new to me once I got that script and read it for my audition.
Now, I've had a couple of people from the Margaritaville Broadway cast, and it was
Oh yeah,
it was kind of interesting seeing, kind of meeting them, and also kind of tying the faces of like how different the personalities were of the same characters in the tour. And what I thought was cool about the tour cast is that it looked really like fun and really just, I guess, young, because being led by a yourself right out of college was super cool and inspiring, reading, especially rereading the playbill and all that stuff. But what was some, obviously I'm sure you met Jimmy Buffett. I would assume
yeah,
so, because I hear he's a
yeah.
big musical theater guy. So what was it like, meeting him? And also, I guess he performed with you, didn't he?
Yeah. So I'm going to tell 3 stories.
Go
The
for it.
first one, great. So the first one is right after I got the part. I hadn't said yes to it yet. And that week, Jimmy was doing a concert in Dallas. And so they sent my parents and I there, and we got to like hang out in this tent. And I went backstage and met him, and we took pictures, and it was super cool. And I met Frank Marshall, who's one of the lead producers on Margaritaville and huge producer of like movies like Raiders of the Lost Ark, E.T., like crazy stuff. And it was just so cool to be in that room meeting him. And then second time was in New York. We were rehearsing. We were about to do a run through, and they said, "Hold on, someone's out." Like they made some deal of like something was happening. They were waiting for a producer to get there or something, and then Jimmy walked in the room, and it was like, "What?" And it's just a moment where you're in a rehearsal studio and you're like singing. It's 5 o'clock somewhere, and Jimmy Buffett is 5 yards from you, and you're just like, "This is wild and kind of terrifying and wild." And then yeah, I got to do Margaritaville with Jimmy 5 times, which is just so cool that like even the first time was at a sound check in Washington D.C., and to just be on stage next to a guy like Jimmy Buffett playing Margaritaville is just like, it blows my mind to this day that that's something I've done, and I'm so grateful for it. And yeah, we did it once in DC, once in Fort Lauderdale, once in Palm Desert, California, of all places, and twice in Los Angeles at our opening and at our second to last show. So yeah, it's just wild. It's such an iconic song, and Jimmy is everything you want him to be. And in the show, we call him Uncle Jimmy. So we wouldn't know when he was coming until the day prior, and then our stage manager would be like, Uncle Jimmy's in the house tomorrow. Uncle Jimmy bows. So slightly different into our show. And it was just so cool whenever he was there. He was like so supportive. And, after doing the show for him like 2 or 3 times, it wasn't that nerve wracking to do it for him because he was such a big fan of musical theater, of our show, so supportive. So it was very fun to do it for him then. And, it's cool to sing Jimmy Buffett songs to Jimmy Buffett. He always talks about, he told a story of when he was at one of the first Broadway workshops and he turned to our book writer, Mike O'Malley, and it was Greg Garcia. And he goes, I've never been to a Jimmy Buffett concert before. That's fun. And it was just like, yeah, because you always do it. So he's hilarious. I have a video of him dancing. He's so fun to be around and so fun to work for. Yeah.
I would assume that when people come into the show, that they have an expectation that they're going to get awesome Jimmy Buffett music. And I remember being there. There was a lot of Jimmy Buffett fans, and people were like mouthing the words quietly and maybe started to sing a little bit in the audience. What is that like, having that kind of responsibility to, sing this awesome music and make sure that these people have a really good time? Because there's obviously weight on, I would assume, your entire company, not just your company, but all performers' shoulders when doing that. I don't think people realize how stressful that is and how awesome it is to have that responsibility.
I think, well, great question. I think the simple answer is you just have to do it like you're doing any other show. You can't force it to be what it is. One thing that's awesome is like there's a reason that Jimmy's songs are so celebrated. He's such a great storyteller. They're so classy, and everyone's there to hear the songs. Like no one's there for a deep story. People are there to hear his songs and relax. So all you kind of have to do then is just show up and sing them, because it's like how people say in regards to acting, for any good play is any good play will do half the work. You just have to meet it halfway. Like the songs are already good. If you do your best, the songs are going to shine. And I think it helps a lot that our band is on stage, because, and it's something we talked about in rehearsals and music direction, is that the songs are the main character of our show. So if the songs shine, the show does well, because the show is written to be a vehicle to put 30 years of songwriting that was never meant to be in a linear narrative. And so as long as the songs are shining, the show is doing its job. So you just don't have to work so hard because the songs are great. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the best advice I have for that.
What's your favorite song to perform?
My favorite song to perform, I'm going to give you 2 of them, is A Pirate Looks at 40, which happens right at the end. It's very, very chill. We're at the back. I'm playing guitar. It's fun. It's easy to sing, and it's my dad's favorite song. My favorite song to do is Margaritaville, without a doubt. I mean, people always think that's probably a song you're sick of, but I mean, you know from seeing it, the way that song happens is very organically. The whole act is written to get us to Margaritaville, the act 1 finale. The writers have dropped all of these little Easter eggs, and you're just sitting there, and it starts out that little like acoustic, just wasting away again, and it's not, and then the band comes in and it builds gradually, and there was always something so magical of like looking out at the ocean, or the entire house. And in the case of the Dolby Theater, it's like, this is really cool. It's like a moment where I, as Chris, can sit on that stage, especially on opening night, and be like, this is so cool. I'm singing Margaritaville for an audience of people and Jimmy, and I'm the only one playing at the top. Like I just start the song, and then the band comes in at the chorus, or after the first chorus. And it's just a moment where I'm like, I'm on stage just playing this beautiful instrument, and it's one of the most iconic songs to ever be written. This is really cool. And so Margaritaville was always fun, because also we, as you said, with like people singing along. So going back to your first question, was, there's all the Jimmy Buffett Parrot Head callbacks of like, salt, 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 and the things that people do at concerts that they then yell at us, and sometimes they are singing the lyrics at us, and sometimes that's distracting but super fun. And yeah, man, those Buffett fans make it so much fun to do. Oh, I miss it so much.
Well, thank goodness you guys are coming back. That's just good news, and the patience that the whole community has shown is just so friggin' awesome. But the thing that I'm impressed. Did you know how to play? I'm assuming you probably knew how to play guitar before the show, but how did that skill kind of come into the rehearsal process? I've known people that they had to learn guitar in rehearsals, and on 2 show days in between shows they'd be learning how to play guitar. And I would assume since you know how to play guitar, that's relatively good. So how did that benefit you?
Yeah, I started taking guitar lessons when I was 7. So I took lessons from when I was 7 to 13, and then for a while I was about as good as I was when I was 13, and I just kind of played here and there. But yeah, for the audition for the casting breakdown, I was like, we need a guy who's a leading man who also plays guitar and does all these other things that I do. And I was like, great, I'll go for it. And I got the part, and I spent more time between June of 2019 and August of 2019 playing guitar than I did in all 4 years of college. Like, I lived with that thing in my hand. I was getting my calluses back. I bought a Jimmy Buffett guitar anthology and started just like learning his stuff. But I got to do a really cool thing. I went to the Florida Keys twice for this thing I call Bar Singer Boot Camp, where I worked with this guitar coach down there, and we played guitar in his like studio shed for 4 hours a day. And then at night he took me around to the different resorts and was like, this is and we saw different bar singers, anywhere from a guy that's very like Tully-esque, from guys that are used to tour with big rock bands in the 70s and 80s and now just live in the Keys and sit in with bands. And so it was so cool, and I got to just learn what that's like. And so that taught me how to be a bar singer vibe. And I came into it thinking, okay, in musical theater, I'm taught you sing the words on the page with the rhythms on the page with the notes on the page. Somebody is going to give me a score that's like guitar 1, guitar 2, Tully guitar. These are the notes that come out of Tully's guitar. And in Bar Singer Boot Camp, I learned, nah, you really don't have to do that much. Like, you really are accompanying yourself. You don't want to play guitar over you singing. So I learned how to sing as a bar singer and play as a bar singer, and it was really wild. And I during rehearsals, I spent almost any scene I wasn't used in the hall with my guitar, just like getting it in my body. Because I always say that the guitar in that show, people say that musical theater is like the classic rubber tummy, pat your head, but doing Tully is like you're doing that and you're hula hooping, and you don't want to hit anyone with the hula hoop, because if they do, it'll hurt them, which is the guitar, and it could hurt the hula hoop. And so for a while, after I got it down, it's just started to feel like choreography. Like, it was like, okay, and on this count, I changed to a C and a G and a D. And then there's that one song towards the end of our show that goes constantly, it's Love and Luck, that goes through six or more key changes, and keeping track of what key we're in and what part it is there, and then it goes back to the original and then to a different key. And it was, learning how to do it was the hardest thing I've ever had to do, because it's not just lines and lyrics, but lines, lyrics, music, keys, fingers, when you come in, what tempo you're at. Like, it was, because accompanying myself and then having the band came in was a whole obstacle to tackle. I hope I'm answering your question. Okay, great. But yeah, it was one of the weirder things I've ever learned how to do. I'm so glad I played before, but it was a lot of it just like getting things in my body so that I didn't have to think about it anymore. I mean, I'll say this because it's something that I wish I had heard. I made mistakes every night. I was never perfect on that guitar. It got a lot better towards the end, but I can especially say in our first 20 to 30 shows, I always missed a chord. I always went up on something. I always played a wrong string. I always had a finger slip. I always had some note that wasn't pressed down hard enough and got muted and buzzy. And pit players will tell you too. They're like, yeah, I never play a perfect show. So if anyone out there is ever playing an instrument in a show, it's okay. We're all, I mean, after all, I'm a bar singer on an island. I didn't go to Juilliard. So Tully would probably mess up too. But yeah, it was a big obstacle, and it was so satisfying when I could do it without thinking about it. But learning how to do it was one of the hardest things I've ever done in my theatrical career.
Hearing the excitement that you have and kind of like the smile that has been and the 20 minutes I've been talking about this show, this project has meant a lot to you. What
Yeah.
in depth, what is playing Tully like meant to you? Obviously, aside from it being, your Broadway national tour / Broadway like debut,
Mhm.
what is like this meant to you personally, and especially in a pandemic right now where 6+ months into it and your tour is coming back. So what's that like?
Um, Tully Tully taught me a lot. It really taught me the key message of our show, which I say this line towards the end of the first act, and I haven't had to say the line in a few months, so give me a second as I search for it. But it's the one where it's Rachel's all relaxed, and I say, the minute you started enjoying, I'm going to paraphrase, the minute you started enjoying, hold on, well, this can all be cut out. Um, I'm going to give you less to cut out. The second you stopped worrying about all the things you could be doing, you started enjoying what you actually are doing. And that's the thing that I read the script and was like, I'm writing that down, because that taught me so much in terms that, like, I could sit here on this podcast and think, okay, I got to do groceries and I got to work out and I got to call my mom, or and but it's like, no, this is what I'm doing right now, and if I'm going to enjoy this now, and it taught me to go 2% slower, pick the thing that I'm doing and be 100% present in that. So Tully chilled me out a little bit. I'm a very type A person, and playing a just happy-go-lucky, high and drunk all the time beach boy was kind of something I had to learn, but that impacted me a lot. And I'll say, from a career standpoint, like, I'll own it. I was fresh out of college. Like, I hadn't played a lead in a while. I mean, I got to do a supporting role at school, but I certainly never led a Broadway tour. And it was a huge thing of, I learned how to be a lead. I learned how to lead a company. I learned how to tour. I got to go some awesome places. I got to make professional relationships. I got to learn how to do 8 shows a week. So, though hopefully one day Tully will be a footnote in my career, it will mean so much more to me than a credit on my resume, because it will have taught me how to do all of the other stuff. And for that, it's invaluable. And of course, getting to meet Jimmy Buffett and play with Jimmy Buffett is absolutely wild, and that'll be part of it too. But what it taught me is going to be, I think, the biggest thing I take away from it.
Uh, when you guys were at the Dolby Theater, I think it may have been the first one, not just in a long time, but I'm thinking ever, first musical in the Dolby that Hollywood has had in a long period of time. Like, I'm talking decades, maybe even ever. I should ask this: the dressing room. As far as I know, the dressing rooms aren't necessarily built for Broadway musicals there. What was were they as tight as they normally are in the other theaters, or what was it like, backstage at the Dolby?
Um, the coolest part of the Dolby is being on stage at the Dolby. It's not the best backstage space in the world, but that's just mainly because it's not built for it. Like, it is built to house production people and one night only concerts and comedians and stuff. But, like, my dressing room had a nice office chair and I had space and I had a bathroom in it. But there are definitely some either like brand new theaters, like there's one in Auburn, Alabama, that had like a couch and a fridge and the TV in there. And I think I actually had a TV in mind, but like I had one in Las Vegas that had a couch and a whole like seating area, and I was watching the divisional NFL playoffs at intermission and between shows on my TV, and that was great. But the coolest part about the Dolby's being on stage and seeing that, I don't know what to call it, but like the art up top. It's not a chandelier, but let's call it a chandelier. And walking into the stage door, and like the whole hallway is just Oscars posters from the last 20 years. And you never forget where you are. But yeah, the backstage space, it hasn't had musicals before, so definitely the highlight of the Dolby was not the backstage space, but there is, I mean, it is huge. There are huge hallways down there, huge green room. The halls where the ensemble was downstairs was crazy. I mean, it was massive. Everything was super super spread out. But yeah, it's not a very exciting answer about the dressing rooms at the Dolby, but it was cool.
Just before we wrap up here, what is some advice you can give to young performers and college, high school? The advice I assume that you probably were planning on giving people half a year ago was completely different to what you probably say right now, just because the new path that theater is going to take. I mean, we've been doing self tapes for a while now, but it looks like we don't know what's going to happen with theater. So, what's some advice you can give to performers?
I'm going to talk to all those baritones out there. I also am sorry that you are being asked to sing B's and C's and B flats, but just because you are not a tenor does not mean you are not a good singer. Singing high does not make you a good singer. The day that I owned that I was a really good baritone and not a tenor was the day that I came into my own. So the same part of that is be who you are. I know that this is so cliche, but what makes you you, and what makes you what the head of Texas State Musical Theater would call crunchy, is what makes you interesting and what makes you interesting on stage. I'm a different person right now than I was when I started Margaritaville, and I'm a way different person than when I left it because of this whole 6 months of our world. And so embrace the things that make you you and make you different, and figure out how that influences your work. And by work, I mean anything. I mean working at McDonald's. I mean doing a self tape. I mean movies, accounting, whatever. How does that make you you, and bring that to it? Because that is what's going to make you interesting on stage and not just a cookie cutter. It's easy to be like, I want to be Stephen Pasquale. Well, there's already a Stephen Pasquale. So I'm going to do the things that I like about him, but then be me. So as much of you that you can bring to it just makes you so interesting. And I love watching people that know who they are, what makes them different, and what that brings to the table.
I like that. I heard Stephen Pasquale. I'm like, you're was that Bridges of Madison County? He was in that musical, correct?
Yeah.
I saw your cover of Wondering about a month and a half ago. Very good. I can tell is that one of your favorite musicals?
Oh yeah. If I can be Robert when I'm 35, 40, you just give me a call.
Well, Chris, I really appreciate you. I'm sorry it's taken so long, meeting, but the world's getting crazy, and I've been busy with college. We're finally getting things a little under control now, but I really appreciate you taking some time, and also just being so nice to myself at the stage door. When I was there with my sister was fangirling. She was a very big fan of yours. She thought you were very awesome. And so I appreciate your gratitude and your niceness, your vibes. They're just cool. And especially when you first hop on this call, I'm like, okay, it's going to be fun. But I really appreciate it. I'll let you know when this episode drops. And in the meantime, just stay cool and stay positive, and, best of luck in New York.
Yeah. Hey, do you mind if I say two super quick things?
Go for it.
One of them, I love your Margaritaville playbill back there. It's good to see. Oh, Android. Oh, come on. Toss those balls around. That's amazing. Yes, Margaritaville's back. And thing two is that oh shoot, we're talking about that. And then oh yeah, I collected autographs when I was a kid. Like I I would go to baseball spring training, and I would go to like local signings, and I would go to games early and try to get like players autographs, and then I would stage door and stuff. And I didn't know I was going to be an actor at the time, but I remember just thinking, man, if I ever have a position to sign for somebody, I'm going to do it. And now it's weird being a lead in a show and people want my autograph sometimes. And with Margaritaville, there's not a lot of musical theater people, so you never know if they're gonna come to our stage door. But I would always try to make sure that if there was somebody outside waiting in the cold, or if it's in Denver for an autograph or a picture, that they got that, because I was that person. So I will I'm saying this now. I will always do that because that's awesome, and I'm really happy to hear that that impacted you guys.
It was one of the highlights. This is the last show for us people in LA that we had before COVID. So it was,
Right.
in March we're like, oh, we can't wait for when SpongeBob comes and we get to have a different member. But then like you cherish it just 10 times more. And even though it was awesome then, it's even more awesome now because it's been 6+ months with nothing. And let's urge
Yep.
Congress to pass the what you call it, the
It used to be CARES. I don't know what it is now.
yeah, we you know where I'm going with
Yeah.
this, but
The arts funding bill.
right.
You can call it that.
Correct. And also, I've been leaving this my recent episodes. We are encouraging everyone 18 and older, vote. 16
Oh,
and older,
please vote.
register,
Please
do it.
vote. Please vote. Even if you're not on most of our side, vote. Let your voice be heard. It is so important. I would rather you vote for the orange guy than not at all. So please make your vote be heard.
Exactly. But yeah, I'll let you know when this drops. I appreciate everything, and I sincerely do. Even if you are a Cowboy fan, I totally appreciate the awesomeness.
Dude, I wore that Cowboys fan in regional houses all year long from like Providence, and everyone's like, "Why are you wearing a Cowboys jersey?" Like, dude, if you want to just get hated on by the world, wear a Cowboys jersey around the United States of America. But of course, I say I'm from Dallas, and they're like, "It's cool."
Yeah, that's the same with us Pats fans. As long as it's not a
I
Brady
see.
jersey, especially now, we're fine.
Yep.
Well, you take care and you stay safe out there.
Thanks, you too, Logan.
Absolutely. I'll let you know. It'll be a couple weeks, but I'm looking forward to it. I love editing these things. They're fun to look back and
Sweet, dude.
write the stuff down on a notepad and cherish it
Nice,
once we
man.
go back.
Dude, I love what you are doing. That's freaking rad.
I appreciate that.
Hopefully, I'll see you soon. Hopefully, we can do some theater and see where it goes.
Hey, that'd be cool. You
Right.
you enjoy and look at that script
Yeah.
every now and then. You never know.
You never know. We'll come back.
Take care.
Yeah. See you, dude.